by E.A. Wallis Budge. Volume 3 is the contents of the books of the other world described and compared. Chapter 6 is the second division of the Duat. 1. The kingdom of Kente Yemente Yasir, according to the book Gim Duat. Now here's where I find that I've been pronouncing something wrong, isn't it? The entity Yifura now enters the region Wurruns. Two R's. Wurruns, which derives its name from that of the river flowing through it. It is 309 or 480 yitru, or leagues in length, and 120 wide. Why I said here's where I find out is because here where the hieroglyph tells me. Wurruns is a portion of the dominions of Yasir Kente Yemente, the great entity of Abydos, and it, no doubt, formed a section of the Sakset Hatep. According to the old theology of Egypt, the boat of Yifura is now under the direction of the entity of the second hour of the night, Shasat Makat Nubs, and the Uriah of Isis, Ost, Nephthys, I forget how to pronounce that in real life, have been added to its crew. Immediately in front of it are 4 boats which move by themselves. The first contains the full moon, of which Yasir was the form. The second, an emblem of deity of harvest. And the third, the symbols of another agricultural deity, or so they thought. The fourth, a grain entity personified. All 4 boats contain either forms or symbols of Yasir in its different aspects as the entity of plowing, sowing, and reaping, and of the grain from the time when it germinates to the season of harvest. When Yifura has come into Wurruns, he addresses the entities of the region, which are called Ba'u Duat, and tells them to open their doors so that they may receive air, fresh food, and fresh water in return for the deeds of valor which they have done on behalf of Yifura, the sun entity. So you're merging, with Sorath and Chemosh and Utu and Shamash and it seems that one portion of the division of followers of Yasir and Ra had to do battle against Apep and his friends, or Apep. That in return for their service to the entity gave them places here in which to dwell, with an abundance of wheat and barley, etc. Entities in reply welcome Yifura and beg him to dissipate the darkness in Yemente, and to slay the serpents Ha'u and the Ha-Horeh. See Volume 1, page 40, which I have already shared, as one can see. They promise that those who guide his boat shall destroy Apep. You might want to see my, how Apep is the replacement for Kek, otherwise on this ancient Egyptian list, but it's also on the political list. That Yasir shall come to meet him, and shall avenge him, and that he shall rest in Yemet, and shall appear in the east, the following morning under the form of Xpre. After this speech, they lead Yifura to a state of peace in Suksat Nupper Te'u, i.e. the field of the entities of grain. wherein are the boats of the grain entities already described. In this fair haven, Yafu-Ra rest, and every follower of Yesur, Osiris, hope to follow his example. If we consider for a moment that the group of so-called divine beings which stands on each bark of the river Wurnas, it becomes evident that each entity, that each demon and demoness, belongs to the company of Yesur. So Yesur, a usurper entity. To the right of the boat stand 6 entities who either hold or wear an ear of corn and are connected with the growth of the grain. See Volume 1, page 31. Entities armed with knives and connected with the harvest. Entities of the seasons, each holding a notched palm stick. The entity of the year, the entities of Sothis and Orion, Yesur, Nefer, Akabit, Anubis, Yinpu, the eater of the ass, the donkey, gotta make that one clear, etc. This is a name given to the serpent which is seen attacking a donkey in the 11th chapter of the Book of the Dead, and which is a form of the entity Set. The ass is probably a form of the sun god Ra. The eater of the great phallus, i.e. the ass, was also a power of evil, yet he is found seated among the beneficent gods. So we have, in the Quran, the symbols, 3 animals in particular. We have the sociopath of the ape. We have the glutton of the pig. And we have the ignorance, or just working of the donkey. It's not an insult to donkeys. It's in some cultures we have the snake. We have the, like a chicken or some sort of bird, or, that can cause some problems. Chicken, snake, and dog, yeah. But then there's good qualities to animals like this anyways. But so next appear spearing the eater of the ass, of the donkey. I gotta say donkey because people are gonna, that does not sound right. To the left of the boat are 6 entities, each with a phallus in the form of a knife. The double entity Ru Set, Volume 1, page 29. I believe that's a variation. Maybe instead of U, maybe Y. But various animal and bird-headed entities, bird-headed demons and demonesses, both with and without Uriah on their heads. The crook, the must of Yesur. Oh, we have that weaving loom thing at the end of the thing. So that implies something other than it's just a crook. Oh, a crochet hook, maybe? Oh, well. Okay, the serpent protector of Yesur, and so on. The entities on the right of Yafu-Ra are they who give him the seasons and the years which are in their hands. And soon as he speaks to them, they have life through his voice. He, moreover, tells them what to do, and he orders that the herbs of the fields, Wurnas, shall be given to them in abundance. The duties of these entities are simple, and they supply the followers of Yafu-Ra, i.e., those spirits who have succeeded in entering his boat, with green herbs. They give them water, and they light the fires which are to destroy the enemies of Ra. It is not, however, easy to understand their position. All these entities are under the rule of Yum Nabui, which is the entity of this field. But it seems that they remain in a state of inertness until Yafu-Ra enters and shines in upon them. Although they have their duties and know how to perform them, it is suggested by the text that they perform nothing until he speaks to them. Now, if this is our role in our afterlife, it's not till we establish our afterlife, till the potential of our afterlife are our access to the spiritual realms. I mean, why does it matter if we haven't reached it there yet? In other words, they are merely dead entities until the word of power spoken by Yafu-Ra makes them to produce grain on which to feed themselves and the followers of Ra. Now, the Order of Nine Angles and others speak of the undead, speak of some sort of undead gods. And, well, obviously, these entities wouldn't be dependent on us, and I would figure they wouldn't be waiting on us. They'd be living their existence. So, there's a lot of truth to that thing. But undead makes it sound like vampires. It's like some sort of zombies or something from voodoo or something. And it's different than that. Produce grain in which they feed themselves and the followers of Ra. In this way, the power of Yamun-Ra is shown. His dead body, i.e. the night sun, is able to revivify all the entities of the kingdom of Yusur and to make them work. The entities on the left, first of all, to praise Yafu-Ra after he has entered Wurnus, and they next guard the day and bring on the night until the great entity cometh out in the east of the sky. Besides this, their duty is to bring to the entity's notice the words of those who are upon earth, and they make souls to come to their forms. Volume 1, page 34. They are also concerned with the offerings of the night and effect the overthrow of enemies. From this passage, it is clear that the Egyptians believed that the words uttered on earth were taken to Yafu-Ra by his ministers, and it is difficult not to think that such words must have been in the form of petitions or prayers, if only for the sepulchre offerings. As soon as Yafu-Ra has passed through the division and his light has begun to leave them, all the entities of Wurnus cry out in lamentation and utter wailings because he has left them. From the summary of the book Duat, we gather that the pictures and text refer to this division of the Duat, or hour of the night, were believed to possess special efficacy, and the faithful thought that if a man knew the names of its entities, he would receive a place of abode in Wurnus and would travel about with the entity and would have the power of entering the earth and the Duat, and of going so far as the pillars which supported the heavens would travel over the serpent Amuah, the eater of the donkey, would eat the bread intended for the boat of the earth. Okay, go back to page 126 of the first volume, right? And would partake of the perfumed unguent of the entity Tatubye. Moreover, it is said that the man who made offerings to Baeu Duateu, i.e., the so-called divines of the Duat, mentioning them by their names, shall in very truth receive innumerable benefits upon earth. The texts giving these facts are most important, for they prove that in the earlier times the abode of the blessed was believed to be in Wurnus, and that the making of offerings to the dead was incalculated as a meritorious act, and that it was believed to bring blessings upon him that made the offering, even whilst he was upon earth. It may also be noted in passing that the heaven Wurnus was somewhat exclusive, for only the followers of Yusur and Ra were admitted. And, okay, so I got to remember when titling this that the second portion of this is within the same chapter. And the second portion of this second division of the Duat that is listed here is the kingdom of Kunte Yamante Yosur according to the Book of Gates. To advance into this division of the boat of Yufura must first pass through the gate which is guarded by the huge serpent Sasasat. And it is done that the entity now takes upon himself the form in which he appears in the book Yim Duat, i.e., that of a ram-headed man. And we look at the different, some of these things actually compare to brain structures and why, and it can kind of make sense. Oh, this is why. These attributes, because it's not just by watching a ram, or certain animal or whatever, or cow, or structure. Anyways, I'm not articulating it right, so I'm going to stop. The snake entity, Mahan, the surrounding, the one that covers you like a bubble, right? Which surrounds the disc and encloses a beetle, now envelops the shrine in which he stands. It must be noted that Sasa and Hakau stand before in the boat, which is now towed along by 4 entities of the Duat, who represent the 4 quarters of the earth and the 4 cardinal points. The boat is received by a company of 13 entities who are apparently under the rule of an entity who holds a staff. The object of the visit of Yafura is to weigh words and deeds and yamut, to make a distinction between the great and little entities, to assign thrones to the 2 spirits, to dismiss the damned, to place set apart for them, and to destroy their bodies. Volume 2, page 91. Now this is an important statement, for it distinctly implies that a judgment of the dead takes place in the second division or hour of the Duat, which here is called Yimt, and that the positions of the dead are graded, and that the reward and punishment are meted out to the dead according to their deserts. It is said by Yifura to the dwellers of Yimt, the dead, Matu. So Matu, it's interesting in later languages, Mount, became a word for death or an end. And unlike the symbol for evil, the spike thing it's not quite at the head, but it's like, the guy's like, don't make me, shall not enter in after you, which proves that wherever the place of punishment was, and was not in the second division of the Duat, the entities who assist Yifura in his work of judgment are said to live upon the offerings made to them upon earth. Here was a direct inducement to the faithful to make offerings regular to the entities of the Duat, and it was understood that such acts of piety would tell on their behalf when their words and deeds came to the weighed in Yimt. The reader will note that it is Yifura who is judge here, and not Yasir. Oh, the sun entity. Aren't we supposed to be the sun entity? But when it all comes to an end, isn't that sort of part of what's going to happen? Is that we're going to know our own judgment. And our thoughts, words, and deeds and stuff like that is going to be a part of it. But examining now the beings who are on both banks of the river, we see that they fall naturally into 2 classes, viz. The good and the bad. The former are on the right hand of the entity, and the latter on his left, just as saints and sinners are arranged before God's throne in medieval pictures of judgment. The good are divided into 2 classes. The Hataptiyu, those who are pleasing to the Tu, allegedly, because they praise Ra, in this case, we have Ma'ateu, who dwell in the Duat, Volume 2, page 93. The Hatapeu are called because they have made offerings, Hatapet, to Ra upon earth, and burned incense to him, and also sang praises to Ra, and worshipped him upon the earth, and uttered Hakau, are words of power against Apep. Kind of mean to Apep, aren't they? Archfoe of Ra, Volume 2, page 94. From this text, we see that it was not enough for the followers of Ra to praise him and give him gifts, but they must also use magical words and formula in order that Ra's foe may be destroyed, and because when they were upon earth made offerings to the Duat entities. Now that they are themselves in the Duat and have need of food, Ra declares that offerings made to them shall never fail, and that their souls shall never be destroyed. The Ma'ateu beings have this name given to them because, as the texts say, they spoke Ma'at, what is true. But more than just honesty, more than just the facts, they spoke rightly. Upon earth, moreover, they did not approach the Nutarit. Now, the word Nutarit is usually thought to mean goddesses, but here the unusual determinative, ta instead of ch, t instead of tj, which, however, suggests that is used to express some idea of evil in connection with the demons and demonesses, such as blasphemy or contempt or apostasy. On the whole, it seems most likely that Natarit Ru means false entities. That is to say, so instead of the battle axe, no battle axe, and we have, okay. We have that little whir bird again. That is to say, entities whom Ra would not recognize as such, and that the feminine form of the word with the unusual determinative indicates they were weak and miserable beings. As for reward their veracity and orthodoxy upon earth, the food on which they live is Ma'at, i.e. truth, and they themselves become Ma'at. Ma'at, Ma'at, Ba. It was something the ancient Egyptian version of the Freemasons actually had on some compasses. Not the square. The compass is, showing a 23-degree angle from the center. And that tradition goes way back, by the way. They are permitted to invoke the entity in the gate. Ra, moreover, gives them the mastery over the waters of the region, which through cool and refreshing to the Ma'ateu beings themselves become waters of fire. Volume 2, page 94, which, was the way back, 95, I mean. To those who are sinners, sin in ancient Egyptian means mistake, and are involved in wickedness, we have already seen that the wicked were not allowed to enter this division. Therefore, it appears that it was held to be possible for the dead round about it to attempt to drink of the cool waters, which straightway turned into fire and consumed them. Turning now to these beings who stand to the left of the boat, see Volume 2, pages 96 to 99, we see that they are 24 in number. Remember the 24 elder system? Not just the hours of the day, but each of these four lie dead or helpless and are called Aneniu. I don't remember how exactly that's pronounced in the real, but i.e. the inert. And 20 stand with their backs bowed and their arms tied to their elbows behind them in an agonizing position. Here it is clear are beings who are fettered and stand awaiting their doom. The charges made against them are to the effect that 1. They blasphemed Ra upon the earth. 2. They invoked evil upon him that was in the egg. 3. They thrust aside the right. And they spoke against Qutti. Entity referred to as being in the egg is, of course, a form of the sun entity, and we know that from the 54th chapter of the Book of the Dead that the egg was laid by Knukner, the great cackler. I guess that sounds, you can mock people with that. The great Kate is in the form of the sun entity, Yef, at sunrise. Or if you want to give it a strong sense, Yefu, at sunrise and sunset. Thus we see that all the sins which were committed by the Aneniu and their fettered companions were against Ra and against forms of him. And the name given to these is Stau, i.e., the apostates of the hall of Ra, and the sentence of doom is passed upon them by Tamu on behalf of Ra. It is decreed that their arms shall never be untied again, that their bodies shall be cut to pieces, and that their soul shall cease to exist. Volume 2, page 97. Such are the things which take place in the second division of the Duat, according to the Book of the Gates, and view them in whatever way we may. It is possible not to conclude that the Egyptians thought that those who praised and worshipped Ra upon earth were rewarded with good things, whilst those who treated him lightly were punished. It is evident also that the offering of propitiatory sacrifices and making of peace offerings were encouraged by the religion of Yasur as being good for both the entities and men. So even when, it works for the demons when you serve it doesn't matter which demiurge you serve, it works for the demons. Now I'm going to show you something. Now I'm not going to really say too much because it's been done before. Some may know that I've, grew up reading this. And so the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, as it was called during my lifetime. I didn't read it as much as you see. And we go on to the Pearl of Great Price, which basically, it's a bit more organized than your typical Baptist church, but Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price. Come on, Pearl of Great Price. Of course, I kind of like the Pearl of Great Price more. We weren't supposed to be sharing this as much with other people outside the church. But my study into Egyptology kind of not only made me realize that there was stuff said about Abraham that sort of put him as a pre-Judaic, pre-Christianity thing. Definitely, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints tried to make the prophets of the Bible really Christian, but that stuff was forgotten. but it wasn't reconstructed right, but because the guy was supposed to be dead, so that'd be Yusir, the four sons, and this is taken on further. You find the four sons again, and a lot of the Ost, Yusir, Hru, and before that we'd see Dahoti, and we'd see the great copulating bull without equal, high in the house of Heliopolis, and the Ben stone, all this sort of stuff. It's that's obviously Ra there. It's all pretty standard. I mean, these things were very specifically, but now I've done some of the Joseph Smith style stuff before. Because see, I wanted to take the elements, and they didn't find it for quite a while. Later in my life, I found out that they actually found the actual one and proved that Joseph Smith did not reconstruct these things correct, but he didn't translate, he divined. So he looked at the pictures and he kind of, that's an angel hearkening, and so you think about this in a Christian way, and you're praying and you're thinking of doctrine. That's what divination is. Divination is that you're trying to figure things out. It's not necessarily that the Spirit calls you and gives you the message, or entity or God speaks to you or something. It's of course, the brown-skinned people that we would call black. The Arabs, the northern and southern Semites called them white, but they were brown-skinned and black woolly-haired. That's what they meant by white. You were like yellow or red or something if you were, something else. And if you were more Negro, then you'd, the lips and some other features would be clear as to what that is. Interesting little pointy head that guy has. But I'm going to stop there, and yeah, I like that little stand. Almost looks like a head, but again, Ost, Yusir, perhaps